Maybe
you know what? If we're live now, I'll do it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I think we're recording.
Great. You seem to be.
I'm just putting the.
So this is what a live interview feels
like. Exactly. It's very quiet. Yeah. An hour of enforced silence.
It's like no, everyone just.
1 second. I'm just. Okay, now I am ready. Sorry, just putting in the links. So I am delighted to be joined by Roland and Thomas from Godolphin Games. Hello, guys. I'm delighted to speak to you. How are you guys doing?
We're good. We're delighted to be speaking to you. It's a great way to be spending a sort of a Saturday.
Thanks
for having us.
No worries. We are speaking in. Well, first of all, I should say, because I keep forgetting to mention this in the previous live interviews, is thank you to HitSense, the publishers of other games such as Inspector Waffles and many other games, for publishing and hosting this event, which is a big adventure event. And Unknown Number, which is your game, which we'll be talking about over the next hour or so, is part of this event. You are one of the games showcasing and hosting as well. So congratulations. It's one of the many great games that are on. And now, as at least Thomas knows, I've been wanting to speak to you guys as well since I first heard about it. So this is a voice-controlled, this is the first voice-controlled game. Correct?
Yeah, we think so. That's fingers crossed.
Well, before we kind of talk about the game and show a trailer, we might see if anybody will join us live. If not, this video and this audio will be up at a later point. But first of all, I wanted to see if you guys could introduce yourselves and say what are your favorite, adventure or narrative or puzzle games that you guys enjoy. So who wants to go first?
I go first?
You go first.
So I'm Tom. We're obviously writing and directing Unknown Number together, but I'm kind of more the game designer side. He's more the story side.
Exactly.
But the game that I'm really loving right now is Inscription, which is, genuinely, like, it's one of those games where you get just totally sucked into it. And I hate card games. I hate them. I think they're terrible. I'm like, just play a freaking card game, dude. But like, the truth is that this game, the card game is obviously so good, but also there is this adventure element around it, this kind of escape room element that makes the whole thing feel really immersive and really mysterious. I haven't completed it yet, so no spoilers if you played it. But I'm like sort of 7 hours in. I know you're meant to complete it about like 6 hours, but I'm really shit at playing games. I'm really bad at games. But yeah, like genuinely, like I've played it a whole while. I've realized what I need to overcome at this point, and I will win at some point. But it's a great game. I genuinely couldn't recommend it more. It's fantastic.
And I think I'm Roland. I write and direct with Tom. And I think at the moment the game I'm finding really interesting is Forgotten City. Which actually again, no spoilers because I'm halfway through. So but it's fascinating. I think kind of like heavily kind of dialogue-based games like that can be quite dull and can be kind of a little bit laborious, but it's got these amazing kind of moments of fantastic drama, and it sort of elevates itself from more of just a kind of talking narrative game to something interesting. So it's a really fantastic twist, and I love the mystery of it, and I love the kind of I love the world and the setting. So I can't wait to finish it.
Yeah, well, first of all, on both your points, Tom, I can completely understand where you're coming from because I'm also not great at games, in particular adventure games. And I know that might sound odd to people because I host the Adventure Games podcast. I've been playing adventure games for, over 20 years, nearly 25 years. I don't know how long. The last 2 years have been time kind of is meaningless now. But but I really am like not great at puzzles. I kind of get stuck at the most simple things. And whenever I've been to events like Adventure X and that, and I've told developers, and if I test a game, I say, don't just go by what I do because I'm worse than a lot of other people. So just because I don't know how to resolve this puzzle doesn't mean most other people won't. And again, I know what to do. Sometimes I know how to play games, but it's just, I kind of get stuck very easily. So I can understand. But we actually reviewed Inscription. Laura reviewed it and she loved it.
Yeah, it genuinely is like, it's surprisingly good, and it's not throwing any shade. It's like, for me, it's game of the year for me.
Wow, yeah, no, a lot of people have said that. And on your point, Roland, I also played Forgotten City. No spoilers, but I absolutely loved it. It was my game of the year and actually one of my favorite games of all time. So
wow,
oh my god, that's so great.
That actually gives me energy to
what was the thing that made it one of your favorite games of all time?
It could go. We spent spoiler for people who haven't listened to our Adventure Games of the Year podcast, but I mean, it's just kind of everything. I mean, I love the story, I love the dialogue, I love the setting, and I think everything just worked for me. That I didn't see any real flaws. It's a very ambitious game where the characters have kind of their own lives, and I was really invested in this. First of all, the story and just the whole game. I also loved how they did, the time loop, because my concern was it would get repetitive and boring, but it actually didn't. They managed to get that around that really, really well and make it feel really natural. And I love the humor in it. There's some humor in it, which I thought was funny. I promise we will talk about your game now in just a second. But,
I also need to talk about Forgotten City.
Well, I mean, I could spend the next hour, but we will get to. But in the Forgotten City, there's some moments of humor in the dialogue when one of the characters from Roman times says, "Oh, we lived through hard times," and one of the options you can say is, "Tell me about it. I'm living through a pandemic."
Oh, that's great. Did you play the original mod out of interest? Did you do the mod?
No, I didn't. I just found out about this game last year, but I didn't. I just heard it then it was based on a mod. So it's come a long way since then. I've heard the mod was really popular.
I mean, I never actually played Skyrim, which I know is like a cardinal sin, but
yeah, me neither.
I have friends who played the mod and were like, "Oh, the mod is amazing," and the new game, it's like it's kind of interesting to see like how it's evolved. Like I think it's like 3 times the length in terms of dialogue or something. It's a really achievement.
Well,
what you're saying about the characters is so true, right? Like everyone's got such complex backstories and lives. Really, there's no kind of interaction that feels ill thought through or ill researched. So it's so satisfying to kind of dig into all the characters.
Yeah.
It seems, it's very, I think they worked with a historian as well. And there didn't seem to be too much or too little dialogue. And the backstory, there was also a great discussion with the magistrate when you kind of talk about all the bad things at that time, like, slavery and all of that. And he kind of gives a good defense. Like, he's still wrong, but...
exactly. You're right. You want the villain's arguments to be compelling. That's what makes it like that. So even if he needs to articulate it in a kind of interesting way.
And and he's just living through that time, and he's saying, look, I'm sure there are some bad things in your time or your world as well, which probably true as well. Which kind of takes us nicely on to your game, because it talks about, as far as I know, the environment, which is one of the issues we're kind of going through at the moment. But would you guys, I mean, you guys are making the game, but would you guys like to see a trailer?
we would love to see a trailer. We have no idea what's in it, so we'd love to see it.
This is the gameplay trailer. If I can now, I'm going to try and share the screen so people watching the video can hopefully see the video. So this will hopefully be a video of gameplay trailer of Unknown Number, just to give people an idea of what it's about, and then we will go on to chatting about it. So
up already.
Attention all units. Security breach detected.
You hear that? We got a problem.
What number did you dial?
What's going on? Who is it?
Hold on! As you can hear, no time for chit-chat. Just give us the name of one of the security guards.
I can't hear you. $1 billion. Please say you got it.
All right, good.
This is welcome like a wall of fire.
This is Officer Keen. I'm outside Vault Alpha. Over.
Repeat after us. I do solemnly pledge.
Analyzing audio levels. Processing data.
For the sake of our wounded Earth. It's burning my skin.
It's coming from the cabinet.
We're going under. Ethan, grab onto something.
That was close. No thanks to this muppet on the phone. Anyone would think you wanted us dead.
Seriously, what happened? Who stopped the oil?
Oh, yes. Let's talk about my money.
It?
Yes.
The end.
Ethan, let's go!
Amanda, look out!
So that was trailer for Unknown Number. I hope you guys saw it. Did you guys see it at least?
Yeah, that felt exciting. That's
Yeah,
great.
we're like, someone should make that game.
I'd play that.
I mean, I hope you guys were able to see it. I hope people, if they're watching the video, can see it. In the chat, Summer Avitant says, hey, hello, Summer. Well, that was just a taste of the game. I mean, yeah, it's. I really wish that people would make that game. It seems really, really interesting. But oh wait, you guys are here. You guys are making the game.
Yeah.
We came through like that.
This is what we tell ourselves every day. We're making this game. We're making this game. Eventually, we'll make it.
which again, I told you before recording. It sounds like a sci-fi, just not just game, but just sci-fi event that you guys are able to make. This just voice controlled game. But first of all, I wanted to ask about the studio and the name of the studio, Godolphin Studios. So, which came first? Was it the game or the studio? And how did you guys
You know what? That's really
found the studio?
I think that the whole thing about Godolphin Games, it's related to. So I'm actually like, my great grandfather is like a cult leader.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. So he's like a scary dude, but like, his second name is Godolphin, and I've always grown up with this family story about like beware the cult. And so like, what's interesting is like every time I shouldn't say this out loud, but it's always been my password. It's always been my thing, and it'd be I've changed my password since, I promise. Ever since going public with this company, my passwords have changed to another cult.
Oh, another cult. Okay.
So it's like, it feels like the whole idea of Godolphin is like being quite central to my life. And then we made this company, but we started out making a different game entirely, which is about
cults.
You know what? It actually was about cults. It was about things called the cult.
This one's sort of about cults as well.
This is also every game has to be about cults.
It comes with like, you have to explore it.
You need to be in the cult. Yeah. But we might make another game, and the other game was like, it has a lot of potential. We might make it again, so I won't give any spoilers. But yeah, like what happened was, in making this game, we lost our artist. Because he became a filmmaker. And he's
the best of us.
exactly. Every fool becomes a filmmaker these days. Speaking of my own.
Guilty.
And so we lost our artist, and we're like, oh fuck, like how do we make a game without an artist? And we're like, why don't we do like a voice control game? And that's where we're at. And it started out as this, almost like as a simple demo idea that we were just gonna like mess with people's minds at like. I think it was before COVID. It was at GDC before COVID. We were like, we're going to go to GDC. We have this game. Everyone's going to find it very funny. It's great. And then, unfortunately, obviously, GDC got cancelled. And in the post-pandemic, it became a full game. It became like, I'm going to say masterwork, but I don't mean because of the quality. I mean because of the degree of passion and dedication we gave to it.
I think we had these weeks that everyone had where you weren't allowed out, and actually we got so deep into the story and deep into the script that it kind of got longer and longer, and then suddenly we had the full kind of 4-hour experience. So,
yeah. It's like a 300-page script, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a monster.
But I love how like ideas, when ideas start off, like simply like that. It's like, hey, let's make a voice control. I mean, not saying that's simple, but just like this idea, and then it's like, oh, let's continue on with it. Let's just continue to make this actually a full-fledged game. And let's just make, and then in your case, it's making, let's make something that sounds very like unique, and like I don't know if anybody else has done it quite like this, at least. It's I mean, I'm sure there are other voice controlled apps and all, but I'm not sure if there's an actual like game, like narratively speaking and puzzle based, quite like this. We think
it's genuinely hasn't been done before, which is like always like a great thing. Like I remember like early on in the whole career thing, I remember getting this really great like almost like pep talk. And it's this guy from like a very, very big game company, and I won't mention which one, but it's very topical right now. And he was like, honestly, my only advice is don't do anything that anyone else is doing. And we were like, I thought it was really good advice. And so, like, in my head, it's always like, how do you make games that don't look or feel like games? And, I don't mean that with like pinch of salt. Of course, you want it to be fun. You want it to be, all the things that you love about games. But at the same time, is you want to flip the script to some degree. And, we're not going to make the best like first-person shooter. We're not going to make the best, real-time strategy game. So it's what can we make that is our own personal perspective on gaming, and that would be unique and exciting and provocative, I guess, in that space.
And it was. I remember Tom telling me about the pure concept for the first time, and I just remember getting this like shiver of excitement, and also being like, okay, this is gonna be
really
crazy.
hard.
Like it was just this moment like, oh my god, I can't believe no one's done that. It was one of those moments where you're like, you've got to move fast, otherwise someone else is gonna take the idea. So it had this charisma immediately.
Yeah, but there are a whole lot of voice control games like sort of coming out, but they're not quite doing it in the same way we are, which is great. I mean, there's that thing. There's that great website called How to Market Your Game by this guy called Chris, and he is honestly, I can't pitch his tutorials enough. He is really fantastic. So How to Market Your Game, fantastic resource for any game developer out there. It's basically like helps guide the whole thing. But like, yeah, it's super interesting because like he basically communicates how games that are out there already that are similar to your game aren't competition. They're actually your allies, right? So like, I think we have to, so One Hand Clapping, for example, is a game that's in the Big Adventure event. That's a game about using your voice to sing and kind of, you jump by going, and you just control it, but no speaking, just through your voice. And I think it's like, we're really excited about just voice coming to gaming and what that looks like. It's untapped, unexplored. And, we're fortunate to be at the kind of the quote unquote frontier of that at this moment.
Yeah, you guys, you could say probably are pioneers in this kind of experience.
Yeah, we have that written above our door, pioneers.
I'll show you now.
But that's a good point that you guys mentioned, that people or games that are kind of like similar, like this other game that you mentioned where you use your voice to jump. They're not necessarily like competitors, because if people like play, say, that game, then I might be thinking, okay, I want to play something similar. And then I might hear about your game. Oh, no, yes. So also there's this, because I've been asking this more as well to developers and to people. It's about accessibility in games, and even people with maybe disabilities who mightn't, or maybe even people like me who are not very good at action games or reflexes or anything. I might want, maybe using our voice only would suit us. As well, do you think that's that might suit people as well, like say for something different, like, or even like casual gamers or non-gamers as well, like, because people like we use the phone all the time. Was that in your mind as well when you're coming up with the game, when you're working on the game?
Yeah, no, I think the non-gamers thing for sure, and it's really interesting how the kind of when you talk to people who don't define themselves as gamers, like how quickly the pitch sort of sells, and people are like, oh my god, people are always like, oh, that doesn't sound like a game, and then they get really excited. It's really like, but it's got this kind of appeal, which is, I think, very exciting and kind of more, and like very broad as well.
I think in terms of accessibility is interesting. I think that it's funny because we actually get a lot of people almost having the opposite point. They go like, oh, but like, aren't you going to have issues with accessibility with voice, like, different accents, different whatever. And that is true. But I mean, our perspective on it is that any form of control has accessibility issues.
Exactly. Yeah,
has accessibility issues. Fundamentally, it's about finger dexterity, which is like really, really, really narrow as like a means of control. So, while we close down a bunch of people, I'm sure we really
open up
a whole bunch of people that actually were alienated and ostracized by the keyboard, by the controller, by the joystick, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Speaking of accessibility, there are always going to be limitations, and I think, we have made steps forward. But then, as you mentioned, in a game such as this, there are going to be people maybe who mightn't be able to play it as well. But then equally, there will be people who, as you mentioned, who might not be able to use a controller or a joystick or even a mouse, whatever, and they might be like, yeah, I can play this game. So I would sort of view it as a positive.
Yeah, totally. We'd be really, really conscious to like make sure that every other control mechanism, there's no like dexterity puzzles. It's something you can do. It's like you can do with the simple clicks of the mouse and with your voice. And so we've been really careful to make sure that we're not, we are creating a game that is it is almost like the answer to the kind of the comeback to the kind of almost bullet hell nature of lots of games, where it is all about genuinely being able to react and move and use his fingers.
We both play a lot of Dota, so I think it's an anti-reaction.
It's like we make a game that isn't anything like Dota because Dota was stolen our souls.
Yeah, exactly. So, we need our fingers a break for a bit. So.
No, definitely. Well, what can you tell us about the setup and the story of the game then? So because we've mentioned that there's a narrative in the game. So yeah, what can you tell us without spoilers, of course? I mean, I don't want to spoil the game, but what can you tell us about the story?
I think kind of for both of us immediately were like, we really wanted to do a game that with a story that tackled climate change in some way. So we kind of, I know it's obviously the issue of our times, and I think it's very important to be telling stories that narrativize that in a way that feels human. And there's obviously it's a very serious issue, and it's weighing down on everyone. But we wanted to make a story that was really fun and exciting in a way that didn't undercut the kind of sincerity of the message at all. But we thought, actually, wouldn't it be great to do this thriller that kind of really drags you in? And actually, for both of us, the kind of sense of fun being a really important driver of change, I think was really stuck with both of us. I think if people enjoy the game and people get pulled into the story, then they're going to leave the experience feeling like, actually, I want to do more.
Mm. Do you want to give it kind of like a what happens in the game?
Oh yeah, you go for it.
No, okay. This is the hardest thing. We've done a whole bunch of things where we're like, now just pitch the story. It's like it's really hard to give a summary of the story and and here's the story.
So I'll try it.
Yeah. I'll be silent.
So basically, you download the app and you get called by these two climate activists who are on a boat, kind of circling around an oil rig, and they call you, and basically they've dialed the wrong number, and they've got this point person on the outside who's meant to be helping them. This person's not picking up, so they call you instead. And basically, you start to become their person on the outside who's helping them get through. You help them get onto the rig, and you help them sort of get into all these vaults. And they're trying to steal $7 billion from a kind of oil baron.
Wow, 7 billion. Sorry,
1 billion. Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. It's big money.
It's big corny money. I mean, the 7 billion thing is interesting. It was actually based on a story that I was in Time about 4 years ago, which was how $7 billion would be enough to actually overcome climate change.
So there's a point to that much. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's
or actually, no. I think I'm telling the story wrong. It was something like if the 25 richest people in the world gave 1% of their wealth, climate change could be at least overcome. So we were like, we should do a high story about stealing. About Richie. Yeah, Richie Rich. Great story, great game. Let's just do that. No, but about stealing that 1% from all the richest people. So the original story, it wasn't actually related to this. The original story was about stealing 1% from the richest 25 people. And then we were like, let's narrow it down to a personality. Let's make a villain. So it's actually about what would her 1% be? It would be 7 billion.
That's pocket money, really, for them.
For Laura Sligo.
And I think it's funny because in a way, everyone's like, it's about a lot of things about. She holds us on paper crypto wallets, and it's like I know that crypto and NFTs have become a major thing of the game world, and we didn't really mean it to be that. With the time, we were just dabbling in crypto and failing at crypto.
Also, you've dabbled in crypto. Okay.
When we were first brainstorming, though, we were like, God, how is she going to get it in paper money? And we were trying to work out how many rooms you'd need for 7 billion in cash. And eventually we were actually
bucket
the biggest little rig ever.
No, sorry for interrupting, but yeah, glad to see that you've thought of the reason for 7 billion, and that so shows that that you're really thinking it through. It looks like. But sorry, Ron, didn't mean to interrupt. You're talking about these two characters who give you in the game to give you a call, and
give you a call, and basically the kind of 7 billion in crypto wallets are hidden in a series of kind of treasure vaults essentially on the rig, and they can't kind of get into these vaults without help from the outside. So they end up calling you, and you have to find passwords. You have to kind of help them get through, and so they're calling you all the time, being like, go and find this, do this puzzle. So you become part of their team.
Yeah.
Cool.
It is fun because it feels we work with a couple of really fantastic actors, and it feels so exciting. We think to be basically suddenly pulled in as the third wheel in this fun relationship between this man and this woman, and they have a whole complicated dynamic. They're lovers, they're fighters, they have their baggage, and you're kind of pulled in as this kind of like third wheel who is witnessing their arguments, witnessing their kind of loving, and and I think the funnest thing is almost like the way that you interact with them and the way you get to know them, and the decisions you make about whether you betray them, whether you support them, whose side are you on? Do you think that she's in the right? Do you think he's in the right? And we try and give the player a sense of agency in relation to their relationship, not just in relation to climate change and the big kind of heist mission.
Exactly. But actually, Tom's absolutely right. Their relationship is the emotional heart of the story, and we very much we drop you into the middle of it, and you have to kind of catch up and get to know them, and actually hopefully you will fall in love with them as it goes on, and actually kind of it becomes this emotional connection with these two characters.
But that sounds really interesting. So there is player agency then, it seems. It's not just us listening and doing like what they tell us, that you can decide whether we can betray them if we're...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do spoilers, but there are some...
Sorry, I don't want to make it a spoiler.
But like, we said that's helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no.
But there are some really big twists, and if it seems sort of convenient that maybe all this money is on the rig, then there's probably a reason behind that. And actually, so there's the kind of, and the people you think are the enemies may not be, and the people you think are the good guys may not be. So you're constantly having to reassess like, whose side you're on.
Because there are two other main characters. One is Lara Sligo, who is the owner of this oil business, right? And the other is someone called Maya, who is the detective, the DCI, who is investigating.
Yeah.
And you basically, they all have this interrelationship, and you're kind of playing a bit of chess between, co-conspirators, heist eco-warrior makers on the ground in the oil rig, the police, and also the owner of this company, and you have a relationship with all of them, and it's kind of hopefully you pick your way through this kind of dynamic.
And we hope as the game goes through, as it being a thriller, kind of the pressure on you as the player kind of winds up and up and up and gets tighter and tighter, and you're constantly being pulled in different directions, and as the game plays out, it's really hopefully the kind of moral decisions will become harder and harder.
Cool. That sounds really, really interesting. So, and I love the way that you're just kind of dropped into this whole kind of situation with all these characters that, because I could just imagine, I mean, I'm sure that, people might think, well, just hang up. But then you're like, no, I don't want to. Like, I want to know first what happens and help these people if possible. But then maybe if you're, shall I say, anti-climate change, if you are the owner of a massive oil company, you might be like, no, I want to betray these people.
We didn't want to mention it, but we actually own like 5 oil companies.
Our ideal audience is all those people. So that's right. If you know anyone, you know.
If you're listening, owners of Shell and all these.
We made a game for you.
Yeah. No, that sounds, fantastic. And what was I going to say, Dan? So then when you're listening to the people to make choices as well. But what other kind of puzzles can we expect as well in the game? Because you mentioned choices, but say for helping these people into the oil rig as well, is there anything else that we can do that we can expect without spoilers, of course?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically we've been like, in a way, because voice is so underexplored as an area, we've been kind of systematic in going, well, what could you do with your voice? And basically trying to build puzzles around all those different notions of voice. So on the most basic level, there are passwords. You have to listen to various different voicemails and calls and go onto different websites in the real world and work out what the passwords are. But equally, there's, there are calls where you have to shout. There are calls you have to whisper. There are calls you have to, give orders to guards on a tannoy, being like, go to Vault XYZ or whatever, And there's, and it's everything. It's directions. We try and, there's even a singing puzzle. we try going like, if you can do it with your voice, let's give it a puzzle.
Give it a go.
Do you have to be good at singing, or?
Yeah. I'm afraid it's only for people who actually are part of the Royal Philharmonic at this point.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
quite inclusive audience, got about 50 people we're aiming at. And
I'm incredibly bad at singing, so I was the guinea pig, and I managed part. So it's like...
Okay, so we see that this game is aimed at oil company owners and 50 people in the Philharmonic.
That's a total universe of 172 people. Yeah. We're really excited to make some money back.
But no, it sounds, again, it sounds fascinating. And then I believe he said on your Steam page as well, or I think you might have said this in another interview, Tom, that you have to impersonate someone. You have to impersonate one of the female characters.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like one of the high level executives. This is definitely probably a spoiler, but fuck it.
Is this a spoiler? Sorry, I shouldn't.
Sorry. You know what? Like the truth is, the whole point about the game is it's fun to experience it, and it's not really spoilers, not spoilers. It's like the point is like we try and put the player in as many awkward positions as possible. Like for example, there's a moment where you have to like pledge into a secret movement, and you say stuff.
Sounds like a cult.
Yeah, well, yeah. I have no reason for loving cults.
It always comes up. It's like, do we need the cult puzzles?
Yeah,
we do.
We're bringing the cult into this. But yeah, like there's one puzzle where you have to impersonate someone on a conference call, and of course, she has the thing is she has a relatively high voice, and so the character's like, okay, you need to impersonate her. This is the note you've got to hit. You're like, yes. And they're like, no. Higher. Like, no. Higher. Yes. And like basically then you have to speak in that level of voice for the whole rest, the next like 10 minutes or whatever. So yeah, yeah. It's meant to be like the whole thing has got a kind of like a carefree energy around it in terms of like, let's just try all these different things and experiment with different ideas. And we really hope that people who play it will feel that kind of roller coaster of, oh, now there's another idea, and now there's another idea. And it feels like a sort of like a sketchbook of investigations and experiments around the world of voice.
Yeah, I said it before, it sounds fascinating, but so, just all of a sudden we have to put in, as you say, a high voice, try to imitate. And so can only, does the game just recognize one voice? Like say if I'm playing my voice, but then if my partner or my mother, if I want to get a female voice, if I give it to them, will the game recognize their voice, or different people play it?
It's not mapped to your. I mean, like there's all sorts of things. I mean, the funny thing is that if we were like more specific about who's playing, so if we were like, I recognize your voice, that would really close down a bunch of accessibility issues, because it becomes much more pernickety about what it's listening for. So we just try to make the voice recognition super generous, really, and it's like the objective is not to frustrate anyone.
Okay.
So like, yeah, like if you went like, I need a higher voice, I'm going to hand it over to my mother-in-law. You won't be told off for that. That is legit.
Okay, so that could happen. I mean, because that's what we could do in a phone call if it was like that. If we're, in this situation, and if we had to pass off as one of these female execs, I would say, okay, any females here? Like my mother-in-law. Okay, can you pretend to be this?
So the whole for the females.
Sorry, I mean, I don't mean it like like that, but just or impersonating someone.
I love it.
And it sounds like it could be kind of like a group game, or maybe party game mightn't be the exact word, but like different people I think could have a great time like listening to it and playing it and seeing how we all play it as well. Is that what you guys thought of as well?
Absolutely. We really often play games together and as a group, and we love that experience of sort of getting into it. So I think we really, really had that in mind, and we love the idea of people sitting down and doing it as a big team.
Yeah, I actually find it hard to play games by myself. That's the like I find it like, or maybe I don't know what it is. Like it's lack of imagination probably, but I find it hard to like keep concentrating on the thing. I need someone there
to supervise. Yeah.
To be witnessing. But like, did you see what I just see? Like,
but it's fun. You can share the excitement and you can share the moment, and it kind of. I think there's more energy to it.
Yeah. So definitely, playing together, and I think also the nature of voice means it's quite public anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I can imagine people. Well, we can imagine people playing it as a group and being like, oh, I'll answer that one, or this one, or but like for example, we played Her Story. I mean, obviously when it came out, I really loved Her Story. I mean, it's got loads and loads of flaws and stuff, but it's just such a great like genre-defying game. And most of the time we were playing it, we were going like, wow, like this is just a whole different way of playing a game. And the thing that I was talking to, we played with Roland, and I was playing with my brother, who is our friend, and like
our other friend.
We have
got two friends.
We got loads of friends. But yeah, we were playing it together, and actually, like, just the experience of exploring a new genre together was amazing.
Yeah.
And her story is a massive influence for us. Massive influence. I didn't mean to say it had flaws. It's a great game. It has no flaws. Perfect.
No, but I get what you mean, because it felt like a different kind of game, that because I played it as well. And I think, there are parts that I really enjoyed, but then I think, as you mentioned, there are some flaws, but I don't think that's necessarily really a bad thing, because it was like Sam Barlow was, because they are pioneer. There was no other game like it at the time. Yeah. And I think now I haven't played his other games, but he seems to have kind of like improved on this and maybe nearly perfected his next game. I can't wait for as well.
It looks good. What was it called again? It's like Betrayal or something. That's definitely what it's called. But it's got a great trailer. I mean, honestly, I know that Sam Barlow gets so much love. It's like almost too much. I don't want to add to the love train. But I do. We obviously look to him being like he is one of those voices, along with him and Lucas Pope, who are occupying this, auteur space, who are going like, hey, like, what do games look like? Let's keep fucking up games.
Yeah.
We obviously really hope to, with this game, enter that conversation of going, what do games look like, rather than, here's another, I keep saying bullet hell. I don't play bullet hell games. Bullet hell dungeon crawler, which is like just not really our vibe anyway.
Well, in this case, it could be like, what do games sound like?
Exactly, yeah.
as well. It's and I'm not a technical person. I run a podcast and all, but as you guys saw before the video, I'm still learning how to do video, so I'm not really that technical at all. But I'm just wondering, how is it possible to make a game like this? And I mean that in the best possible way. That it sounds really complicated sci-fi, that you can just hear your own voice and be part of the game with your voice and just impersonate people and trick characters in the game. Was it complicated to make? Was there any like really complex challenges, or do you guys know how to do it? How is it possible you guys can make a game like this?
I guess in terms of the script, we kind of we wrote kind of masses of branches, and we really kind of made sure the whole thing was really complex and really satisfying. So when you do make decisions, you'll be taken on these whole big different pathways. So that was our starting point.
I mean, technically, it's funny because it does sound sci-fi, but the other thing is that it's something like 70% of us use voice control devices every single day.
That is true.
I'm not going to say hey Siri, hey Google, hey Alexa.
It will turn on.
I was looking over there and be like, make sure the thing is fucking turned on. That technology exists. It's funny because it feels alien and it feels weird, but voice is everywhere. Voice is becoming one of the primary ways we interact with technology. And the weird thing is that it's kind of like not in games. So all we're doing is just like connecting two different threads, I guess. And I think the reason it's not in games is there have been games. There's that great Dreamcast game with a person in a tank, a fish tank. Don't even remember it, but it was like that was controlled with a microphone. It was like one of the only indie games on the Dreamcast. Dreamcast is the best console, by the way. And it's like, and then there was like obviously Xbox On, which became like almost like pretty much a joke. Like everyone was like, oh, like throw grenade, obviously didn't throw grenade, or the advert would say Xbox On, and the fucking your thing would turn on. But like there are like a few like experiments, about like a decade ago, and then suddenly it stopped, and then voice got good. Voice control got good, and everyone just hasn't done it yet. Obviously, one hand clapping and other games are starting to look there, but we're kind of at that weird, fortunate space where technology exists. People haven't worked out how to make it a fun gameplay mechanic yet, and we're hopefully doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, you mentioned that it's weird. I don't know if you guys played. It's on the Nintendo DS with the Phoenix Wright games, where you could literally shout objection into the Nintendo DS. And I love that.
I love is every time you mention that, everyone's like, did you play this random game from 1995 that did use voice? You're like, I didn't, but I really respect that there was a group of pioneers in like 2003 who were doing it. Yeah.
I mean, that was the only thing you could do with your voice in that game. You could do, plenty of other things as well, like playing it. With your voice, all you could do is at any moment shout objection, and I love that. I was like, yeah, I feel like a lawyer now.
We haven't got our objection puzzle in there. We need to
well, I mean, your game obviously has come on, quite a bit more. You can do quite a bit more with your voice, which is what I'm really looking forward to as well. And then we spoke a little bit about the theme of the game, the environment and climate change, which is a huge issue. I mean, right now we're recording this in January. I'm in Ireland, you guys are in the UK. I don't know what the weather is like, but this whole month of January in Ireland has been very sunny, very mild, and I've been sitting outdoors. And I love it, but it's January in Ireland. It shouldn't be like that. So I think we can see kind of the effects of climate change. Some people might say this is a positive, but we can obviously see that there are a lot of negatives with it. So I suppose what, is your goal then to try and reach more people about climate change, and how do you kind of make the game kind of like fun at the same time without people constantly thinking, oh, it's these people trying to preach about climate change and that. So how did you go about that with this topic?
Well, I think what's so brilliant about games in a kind of very obvious way is that actually they put you as the player in the kind of decision-making seat. I think movies can do climate change, but ultimately it's always going to be slightly didactic and slightly preachy because you're just sort of receiving information. But what we find so exciting about this is that actually you're there, you're making the decision. So we hope that the experience of playing it and the fun experience of playing it will then force people to think. And actually, obviously, you steal all this money within the game. And what we felt was very important was that this translates into something kind of real world. So when you reach the end, this is not a spoiler, this is allowed. You will reach the end. Yeah,
when you reach the end, okay.
Yeah. When you reach the end and you steal this money, we're then pushing players to donate to climate change causes. So we're gonna hopefully drive this fictional experience into something very real. We want kind of people to go out there and take on the experience they've had and do good.
Yeah, it's totally optional. I mean, I think that's the thing is we probably started the whole process thinking it was going to be more, more focused on almost like a rhetoric about climate change, but increasingly we fell in love with it as a game.
Yeah.
And so I guess the way that we sort of think about it at this moment is, it's like, I've said this before on other video interviews, but let me just repeat the script, which is I think, if you look back at the 60s and 70s, it's like every single movie back then was about the Cold War, really. James Bond, it had its whole thing about Blofeld, and it had there are various different twists on it, but it really was always about the Cold War. It was always about those scary Russians, and the end of the world. And it's I sort of feel that at this point, our version of the Cold War is basically the climate crisis and the climate emergency, and it's so every story today almost does have that context regardless. That is almost the context that everyone's reading stories and experiencing stories in general, and so all we're doing really is leaning into that context. And it is funny. It's obviously the pandemic has shown people that the apocalypse can happen.
Yeah,
it can happen. And I think that was the issue before. No one believed it. No one believed that normal life was going to be changed. And obviously we've been through a thing that really did change stuff, and it probably will happen again. I mean that's the best possible way.
but I think what Tom was saying about the kind of the importance of story and the kind of gaming experience being paramount, I think is really true. And I think obviously there's the climate activists you're on their side, but we still wanted to make sure that they were kind of complex and kind of flawed and interesting characters, and they're not who you seem, and they are human and they make mistakes, and they make your life difficult as you try to help them. So I think we were actually there's one version of the game that could have been a total hagiography and could have been kind of quite straight, but we wanted to make sure there was a really gripping, exciting story behind it all.
It's a good point. I mean, morally it's really ambiguous.
Yeah.
Right. As in it's very unclear really at any point who's on the right side. If that makes sense, and that's kind of intentional, because I think the thing is today it's really, really, really hard to assess the truth. What is the right perspective on everything? It's really hard to know. And so in a way we're reflecting that quagmire of just not knowing, and I want to be with those people, but those people are really problematic for X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I go to those people, but those people are really problematic. Who do I hang out with?
It's me.
And I have a brother.
Exactly. Our other friend next door.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely I can understand that, as you mentioned, that nobody's perfect. And it's and it's kind of I don't know, maybe in politics or whatever. Now, again, I'm not going to go into detail about politics. That's not why people listen to this podcast. But it's like, it's like, oh, I like this political candidate for some things, but maybe not for other things. And then maybe this other one, but then he or she is like the other things I do like, but then I don't like. So, what do I do then? So, it seems like that as well. And then before we finish that, what about the look of this game? And how can we play this game? So can this game be played on PC or consoles, or is this best played on mobile? If you get a call. So
there isn't actually a mobile version anymore. It's just PC.
So is it really?
No, the mobile version has been discontinued because largely I blame Sam Barlow. I think it's just now we see this as like a voice controlled FMV adventure at this stage.
Oh, okay.
And that's visually speaking, you will see a phone on the screen, but it also has this kind of like rich sort of FMV elements, these video backgrounds that are evocative of the emotions and the space you're in. And the reason, we were going to do a PC and a mobile launch, but the reason we discontinued the mobile one is because the PC version is just so much more fun and so much more emotionally engaging. And we're like, let's not do that half. It's funny, it's a bit counterintuitive because you might think, oh, well, it's a going about phone calls, so why not do it on a mobile? And that is true, but except for the fact that actually when you play it on a PC, it has such a more immersive quality because you get much more of a sense of place. And you get many more cues about where you are and what you should be feeling. We're hugely hyped about the way we've kind of shifted and kind of driven it towards film, certainly.
And it still felt authentic to the story, because look at us now, where we're doing a phone call on a PC. It's that same experience. So it's and sadly over the last year or so, we've all got very used to that. So it kind of felt like a really seamless expression of that.
Yeah. So Steam is the answer to your question.
Okay, so it's be out on Steam.
Someone said put it on itch. We're like, yes, we'll put it on itch. But I haven't set up an itch page yet, and I don't know how to do it, so we'll work it out.
Kind of like me with the podcast, with the videos, kind of like we don't know how to do it, but it's like, we'll get there. We'll work it out as we go along. But that's good. So it's also like FMV. Like anyone who saw the video, saw the trailer, might get an idea what it might look like. So did you go out and record that? Because you mentioned, I think, was it you, Roland, that you're also a filmmaker? Or
exactly, yeah. So a lot of the footage is some stock footage that we've manipulated, some stuff that we've recorded. Like certainly all the kind of, we spent a long time making all of the sounds in the game ourselves. And so pretty much almost every sound you hear in there is something we've made by hand. So when there's glass smashing, we were smashing the glass. or if there are footsteps, we were doing the footsteps, and all the wind is stuff we've done ourselves. And our Tom's brother, who's an amazing musician and our friend. So he was sort of behind all the sound and doing a fantastic job of that. So we had an amazing few weeks sort of smashing glass in a shed.
Fantastic. And did you go out to any oil rigs, with your oil rig friends?
Yeah. We hang out with our mates. We're in a couple of boardrooms. I think what's really fun, we did it in this in the countryside, and it was like, at that time it was actually the middle of winter, and the weather was really intense. Bad, yeah. And so we were just like, this is perfect. Just literally, so we set up this elaborate microphone setup, just capturing the atmosphere. Exactly. I hope I get hit by lightning. And we had
an amazing 2 weeks in the studio with the actors for kind of recording the story itself, and we had a really, really brilliant cast, and it was so exciting doing audio stuff, because you on film, when you can see the actors visually, the performance can be a bit smaller. But actually, I think because it's just voices, we really had to push up the voices. So they've got a kind of fun, almost cartoony edge, which I think we found really exciting.
Yeah, we were like, we need to cast a Disney princess.
Exactly. I
didn't quite make it.
That actually leads me to my next question, because I meant to ask about the voice cast. Because from the trailer, they sound fantastic. They sound, really into it and really genuine and natural as well. So very believable. So what can you tell us about the voice actors how did you get them to work on your game? How did you find them?
So we had a brilliant casting director called Louise Collins, who found us loads of brilliant people. And we did a really extensive kind of auditioning process, and we did lots of chemistry reads where we got kind of different pairings of people in the room, and they'd read different parts of the script to see how they to see how they got on. And actually, we eventually settled on Simon and Candace because they just had this amazing, kind of Disney energy to them, which we really love.
We're so lucky with those two. Those two are honestly like that for us. They make the game. They're I can't kind of praise them enough. You know, and it's funny. We obviously Ron knows a lot of filmmakers because he's in film. But like, you know, when we had a short list and we like played a whole bunch of different voices to a whole bunch of different people, and they were all like, yeah, you could go with those like kind of safe options, but go with the options that have masses of personality.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're really excited about. You know, Candice Palladino and Simon Stashel, you know, they're really experienced actors. They are absolutely on the acting circuit doing their thing. And, you know, I couldn't recommend them highly enough. And I really hope to work with them again. But they understand how to bring life into it when it's not just your face. So it's like, any actor is going like, yep, that's cool acting.
They pretended to be other people. It's amazing.
They acted. But they were just fantastic. And the energy they brought was just absolutely astounding. And yeah, I feel that they don't just leap off the page. They really infect you with their sense of personality, both of them, just through their pure voice. You know what they're about just through their voices. So yeah, it was a great experience. And the funny thing is, obviously, we had this like very, very intensive mid-pandemic, but definitely pandemic safe. We did all the paperwork, I promise. Recording session, and it was like, you know, it was just us four in the room with them. You know, us four. Me, my brother.
All your brothers.
All the cult members.
We're in the room as one group, and it's like, and we really got into it. You know, it's like, I remember, you know, listening to them and being lost in it, and you know, feeling the drama as we were hearing it, because they lived it. They became the characters in that intensive,
in that acting way.
They're actors. Just to clarify.
They didn't join a cult then. And no, sounds fantastic. And how long do you expect? Now, again, I always say it depends on, you know, how long people take to the puzzles and everything. But do you guys have any idea how long they expect, more or less, might take people to play the game?
I mean, it's kind of it depends how you play it. Definitely, it depends how fast you speak. Obviously,
of course.
If you go, it's about 72 hours long.
Very massive,
like Skyrim.
You're gonna love it.
Exactly.
I think it's like, at this point, it's like, you know, we play it through at pace because we know it so well. We've really pushed through, and we know the answer to everything. It takes us about 2 hours. So if you don't know the answers, I guess it'll take about 4 hours. Because that's if you're like going, answer,
exactly.
and take
So we know what the passwords already.
So we're thinking it's probably about 4 hours at this stage.
Okay, and then if you can you then, you know, say to the save automatically in the game? Can you save it so if you quit the game then throughout, or do you have to start all over again?
It's also it's a big joke. You have to every time you log in, it's like, hey, we're a climate. It's auto saving. Obviously, you can restart the game if you want, but we wouldn't recommend anyone did.
It's that's great to hear. And so it will be out, I believe that what I said on the trailer, 25th of April 2022.
That's definitely what it says, and that's definitely what we're aiming for. I think that we hope to be ready, but look, we'll release it when it's brilliant.
Of course, yeah. What I tell to all the developers is just when it's ready. Don't rush things. It sounds like you guys are not. It sounds like you guys are well prepared.
Very slow. We get the context.
See you in 10 years. And be like,
is your was new?
But I mean, I can't wait for this game. It sounds definitely very original, and from everything that you guys said, I think it sounds like it's going to be fantastic. It sounds like it's going to be really enjoyable to play. Do you guys, I mean, you mentioned that you're working on another game beforehand. Do you guys have any other ideas after this game is released? And hopefully, take a holiday, maybe you can have a rest. No,
we have no ideas. We're literally, this is it. This is all we got. After this,
we're retiring.
It's one shot, then out.
No,
I mean, when you talk about a photo game, we call it photo game, but it's we think it's a really cool concept.
You go for it.
No, you do it. No, you do it.
No, you do it.
I think we're very, very fortunate to know a fantastic photographer called Raphael Bliss, and he's very interested in making a game with us that is based around photography. So that's currently what we're exploring with him. about, so games that don't look like games. It's like, okay, we've done voice is brilliant. Maybe we'll do another voice game, maybe we won't. But fundamentally, we're going, what is the next thing that hasn't been done? And obviously, there's been a lot of FMV and stuff, but it's like, but I haven't really seen a game which uses like really high level, fashion level photography and is about like uncovering and manipulating stories through them. So that's what we're currently exploring.
So we're planning a very elaborate murder mystery to go with it.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a murder mystery. It'll be a silly heist, as always.
Yeah, exactly.
And there will be a cult. It actually is about cults. That's a guarantee. Yeah, it's not like games that are about cults. That's our two matches.
You could make a game about whether your great grandfather or your grandfather. That sounds interesting.
I'll play the main thing as an actor.
And they will have to pledge our allegiance to the leader.
To Godolphin Games. Godolphin Games is actually trying to get followers. It's actually a new religion.
Exactly. So please join.
There's a very high upfront cost, but once you're in, you'll love it.
So followers online on Twitter and in real life as well.
And the Church of Godolphin. Yeah, it's fantastic. The ministry we give is just like.
I would probably join based on this game alone. So. Where can people find out more about the game? And I will include the links in the show notes and the description of the video as well. But where can people find out more about you guys and about the game?
Well, obviously, there's a Steam page which we'd love you to all look at and wishlist it.
And wishlist.
Such a big wishlist. It makes obviously a huge difference for indies. But the other place is obviously we're on Instagram and we're on Twitter and we're also on Discord. The Discord is very, very tiny at this moment, but we think that's a good thing because it means people who actually love this game can talk to us directly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're always there. Yeah, exactly. And we're watching it. So if you want to write in the Discord, you will get a genuine personalized response with a bow on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for talking to us.
That's where I spoke with you guys as well. You guys were very welcoming. Without knowing anything about me, he's like, "Oh, welcome, Shorshay."
Well, that's as I said, we don't have any friends. So.
Let you make new friends as well.
I got a friend. Reply to them before they disappear again.
Hopefully, after this game, you make some new friends and new followers.
It's funny because the reason we're on Instagram is basically because we have slightly backgrounds, like film background, and then we talk about fashion photography and all that sort of stuff. So our kind of existing circle is slightly outside the game world, and so what's really interesting about this is actually slightly changing universe and connecting with gamers and game developers. It's been a really exciting process.
It's been great.
and hopefully now hopefully the pandemic is coming to an end, at least that's the way we know it, and we can travel again and go to conferences and meet up in person.
I've heard America's amazing. I've heard it's a really great place to go.
Ireland's amazing.
I've heard outside my house is amazing. Hopefully we can meet up in person. If hopefully I can go to England.
Absolutely.
It would be absolutely fantastic. But is there anything that you guys would like to mention before we finish? I put you guys on the spot now.
I don't know.
Anything else that you guys would like to say to people watching or listening? Apart from buy the game, buy the game, wishlist the game.
You should really buy this game.
I've heard it's great. I've heard great things about
really
this.
Need to start eating again. I guess the one thing that we haven't talked about at all is the concept of the first-person talker.
Yes, sure, we can talk about it. Yes, what?
I know it's funny. It's like that's actually how the whole thing started. It's like obviously the first-person shooter is the most famous genre out there.
So what is a first-person talker then?
Well, I think there's two premises of first-person talker. One is obviously voice is the primary mechanic, as you might expect. But the second is that you are playing the game, the player is playing the game from a first-person perspective, so that the words they speak are essentially the words of the character in the game, if that makes sense. And that makes it quite different from, for example, throw grenade or whatever, because throw grenade is like a less efficient way of pressing B button or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Halo right now. Good game. It's really flawed game. But like with this, what we hope is that when you speak, you're not just using voice for the sake of it. It's actually speaking is to continue the story and be part of the story and to be a character in the story. So that's the first person element of it.
And also you are playing as yourself.
Yeah.
You're not the character. It is you there. So it's putting you in the driving seat.
Which is kind of funny from like a moral perspective, because like, if you do something that gets someone killed, it hopefully does make you go, Oops.
Whoops.
That was me.
Restart game.
Yeah, restart. Burn game. Burn computer. Burn developers.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I find again really interesting. That it's you in this game, it's you talking to the character. You're not playing a different character. It's actually you talking to these people, these characters. And then when with the consequences that you will also feel like, oh shit, what did I just do? Did I get these people killed or get these people in trouble?
Yeah, totally. And I think we definitely wanted there to feel like there were consequences. Like, I mean, this isn't a spoiler because this is like puzzle 1, right? But like, right from the back, they go, you need to call this number and call the security off us because we're about to get seriously fucked up by these guys. And you can go, and they go, here's the number's cool. So you dial the number and it's like, turn off alarm or deploy security, and you can choose.
Yeah,
you can literally day one betray them and basically get them in hotter water. And the fun thing about writing it was like, okay, so if someone does that, how the hell do we get them out of this problem? How do we get them out of this issue?
So we were constantly running ourselves into corners like that, and then being like,
oh
God,
that's I mean, again, it just sounds really interesting. I cannot wait to play it. And we will, of course, be talking about it on the podcast, but it sounds just so original and so different to anything else I've played, because that's what I'm, always on the lookout for new games. I mean, I love, retro games as well, and adventure games. Do the adventure games podcast, but something like this where it kind of like can be a party game, we can play with other people. Also, so it sounds like it's replayable as well. That if you, if you choose to betray them first of all, then you can go back and just see how it goes.
I never replay games, so it's hard to corner that. Yeah, absolutely. I think
you have replayed this one a lot.
I played this one a few too many times. I don't even like it. Don't buy it. It's terrible.
Scratch that one. Yeah, can we edit that out?
Is there a way of just cutting? Yeah. Could you just cut the screen in half and just have Roland?
Or cut the voice maybe if I could, because.
I'm afraid that guy isn't very loud.
I mean, I think I couldn't mute you people. I think we can mute people if you wanted me to. I could have. But thank you so much, guys, for agreeing to talk to me. I hope to meet up with you guys in person, because you sound like really fun as well, people to hang out with. Hopefully, as well at the moment.
Well, when we're alone, we're very, very subtle, very quiet. Very together, we become different people. Yeah.
I am as well, but hopefully we can travel again pretty soon. I mean, at the moment, at the time of recording in January, at least in Ireland, restrictions are coming to an end. Who knows? Maybe in 2 weeks there'll be restrictions again. There'll be another variant or whatever, but hopefully not. But it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you the very, very best of luck with the development of the game and the release of the game. I will be covering on this game podcast, and I must stress, you guys are not paying me to say this. I am genuinely.
You honestly, at this point, we couldn't if we wanted to. Yeah. It's like the studio is broke right now.
Hopefully, it'll make money. But I am genuinely excited about this game when I first heard it, and the more that I've heard about it, I just think that it's something that myself and many people will enjoy, and I can see how hard you guys are working on it. And I'm really looking forward to it. So it will be at the moment 25th of April, but then when it's released, when it's ready, we'll be talking about it. So, enjoy the rest of the day, and we will definitely keep in touch, and we will chat very soon. So thank you both.